Hello everybody and welcome to finally another NuclearCraft update video. It's been too long guys, I'm sorry about this. I should have got this out like a fortnight ago, but first of all I've been quite busy with getting new stuff done for the mod, and second of all I actually recorded like 4 videos. It was about 2 hours of content, and it turned out that OBS didn't record any of my voice, and I tried to do voiceovers but it was just too difficult. But I finally got around to got the energy to record these again, and here we are. This is a 2.9 update video. I'll get the 2.10 one out soon, and I'm also going to do probably 3 other videos, I've thought, other than these update videos, on the Fusion, Fission and Craft Tweaker support. I thought those require an update because the last time I did tutorials on them was quite a long time ago, and there's been some changes, particularly to the Fission, and also I want to sort of make them a bit better because I was sort of umming and ahhing quite a lot in the originals. I wanted to make it just very much clearer for people who just want to get an understanding of how this works quickly. The wiki on the FTB wiki is a lot better now. The tutorial for fission reactors and the page for fission reactors and fusion reactors have been updated. It's a lot better than the old wiki we used to have, so that's actually a really good place to go and learn about how to use the reactors if you don't know how they work. But the video option is there for anyone who likes that option a bit better. But anyway, enough about that. Let's get on with getting this done. 2.9's been out for a little while now, but at least we know we're going to be completionist and we're going to get all of the update videos done. So the first big thing, of course, is that the fission reactors totally changed. So they will still work, the old ones will still work, but you'll notice that when you update the mod, your fission controller will have this ring around it and will be called a fission controller old. Now you can just keep this controller here and it will still work as it did before with all the old reactor rules, but if you want to update your controller, you can just pick it up, and it has a very simple recipe. You can literally just take it from the old controller into the new one just with a simple crafting recipe. Don't worry about these new recipes, that's 2.10, we'll get to that later. But basically, if you want to update, you just get rid of this one and place a new one down. And it will have slightly different rules, so you will notice that some of the stats here will change a little bit. You can see we're not quite as good on heat, but we're still alright. And we're also producing, I can't even remember what the last one was, I think that's more than we were before. But basically the point is that the rules are a bit different, so the coolers do slightly different things, and the graphite does slightly different things. But the gist of it, without having to go into details, which I will do in the new fission video, the main differences are to the coolers. So if we look at the coolers, for example, water is very different now. It can't just touch casing anymore, it has to touch at least a reactor cell or moderator block. Moderator block, by the way, if you just type this in, is either graphite or beryllium. So you can use either graphite or beryllium now as a moderator. But if we go back to the coolers, so that's the main thing. Water's changed quite drastically. Diamonds also changed quite a lot. The main things that changed were definitely the water, the diamond and the liquid helium. And the main reason I wanted to change the water and the diamond is because what used to happen basically is that people were just lining the reactor walls with just like this pattern of diamond and water, and this basically cooled the reactor really well, so it didn't really matter what your cell structure was inside the reactor. But I wanted to get rid of this just tiling that you could do on the casing, on the interior, and so that was the main reason I did the change. So now you've got to think a bit more carefully about how you actually structure your cells and graphite in there. The other main change is that the graphite now isn't quite as weird as it used to be. What I mean by that is that the graphite will only affect the power and heat output of the cells that it actually touches. So the weird thing about the old reactor system was that every single graphite block you added increased the efficiency of every cell in the reactor, and that was just incredibly bizarre. So now it just only affects the cells that it's next to, which is a lot more reasonable and makes a lot more sense when you're actually trying to plan things out. So those are the main changes. I'll, as I said, go into full detail in the fission video. There's also a new updated GUI, so you can see here there's a little bit less information just on the panel here, but there's a lot more information in here. So I'll just explain what this is. Efficiency is exactly the same as it was before. Efficiency is basically the multiplier on average for each cell. So what I have to do to work out how much energy this reactor is going to make is that I multiply the TBU base energy, which is here, 60 RF per tick. If I multiply that by 3.11 and then multiply by the number of cells, 9, so that's roughly 18 times 60. No, sorry, sorry, 27 times 60. That makes a lot more sense. Yeah, 27 times 60 is roughly about 1600. So basically, that's how you can work out the RF per tick before you've sort of built the reactor, before it just tells you in here. And the other thing in here is the heat multiplier. This is the new thing. This wasn't actually even possible before, but with the new changes to fission, you should now be able to see the heat multiplier. And the way this works is pretty much exactly the same. If you multiply the heat multiplier by the number of cells, so in this case 6.55 times the number of cells times the base heat, which is 18 in this case, that will give you the total amount of heat that the fuel will produce. And then obviously you can match that against the amount that your coolers are going to produce. And so basically you can get an idea before you've totally built your reactor of roughly how big you can make your cell structure and what sort of amount of graphite you can put in there. So it's a sort of good way to sort of get an idea before you start putting cells in there and wasting them of what sort of amount of heat you're going to be able to deal with. So there's just a bit more information there because some people like more information. But if you don't like more information, then it's hidden away in that bit of tooltip. So there we are. Yes, molten salts have been added, so there's a ridiculous number of fluids now in NuclearCraft. If you don't want to register all these blocks, I think it's already by default turned to false, because some people had issues with it taking up loads of block IDs. But if you go in here, oh, I need to update that, don't worry about that. But you can see here, register fluid blocks. If you want to register them, you can just set this to true. If you can't deal with the number of block IDs, just turn this to false, and it will basically not register the blocks themselves, because there's a difference between the fluid and the block. You can register a block for each fluid if you want to, but you can just add the fluid if you want as well, which means that you can't place the fluid in the world. But you can see here that if we move on to the new pages, there's loads of new pages, you can see these are all the sort of old fluids here, and then all the new ones are pretty much down from here onwards. You can see there's loads of new molten salt fluids, and this corresponds to basically all the different isotopes and all the different fuels available in the game. And obviously these will be used in the new molten salt reactor system, which is going to be added hopefully very soon, maybe 2.11 or 2.12. We'll have to see, but hopefully 2.11 really. And there's also these other new fluids we'll get to next time. I'll explain a bit more about them. So yeah, these are basically the fuels that are going to be used in the molten salt reactors. So that's that. Next is the Decay Generator. Now works with all of the different depleted blocks. So these were added, I can't remember how many versions back, maybe 2 or 3 versions back. So basically, these are just, if we just look at the recipe, for example, for this one, you can see that this is just the sort of depleted version of californium. Just put 9 of them in a block and you get the californium block, and it's the same for all these other ones. The recipes are pretty simple, and obviously these here are just a thorium and uranium block made of ingots. But basically all these blocks now will work in the Decay Generator. They'll produce different amounts of power, but the point is to realize is that they will decay down. So the californium will, I think, decay down to thorium, and the berkelium, it basically follows exactly the same pattern as it does in the decay hastener. So if you look at the decay hastener recipes, it will tell you exactly how these blocks will decay down. Next thing, fluid extractor. Sorry. So yeah, this is something that I thought about adding quite a while back. So basically what this is a new machine. And right now there's only one recipe. But thank you very much to the NuclearCraft and Advanced Rocketry guys for adding their moon turf to the ore dictionary. So you can put moon turf in, and just like the Zowie Bowie film, or Duncan Jones, that's the name he goes by nowadays, the Duncan Jones film Moon, you can put moon turf into a fluid extractor and extract helium-3 from it. And then of course you can then use your helium-3 in a fusion reactor. So you can set up some sort of quarry on the moon and harvest the helium-3. So it's pretty simple. You literally just put your moon turf in there and it will process up. There we are. So you could get a bit of gravel on the side, and you also get a bit of helium-3. So you get about 1/8 of a bucket. So there we are. That's an option. There we are. Okay, so that's the fluid extractor. There might be more recipes in here in the future, but for now, this is mainly the reason I wanted to add it, because I wanted to add this moon turf recipe. Next thing, multiple fission ports now will actually deal with energy correctly. So basically before, let's turn this reactor on. It is safe, isn't it? Yeah. So let's turn this reactor on. Now in the past, what used to happen is that the ports didn't used to share energy correctly. that wasn't a bug necessarily, but it was just a sort of design flaw in the way the ports worked. But now you see that they actually share energy correctly. So if you want to siphon, a quarter of the energy off somewhere and a quarter of the energy off somewhere else, then you can use multiple ports. And you can see here that these energy cells, there are ports behind here, and you can see that the energy cells are filling up evenly. So there we go. That's sort of fixed, I guess. So that's an option. Energy fission ports now work a bit better. So there we are. Let's turn that off. Next thing, buffers. See, the logic on buffers has changed a little bit. So what used to happen sometimes was that buffers would output and take in fluids from pipes, and so that sometimes caused a little bit of lag, and it would sometimes make the fluid sort of get stuck in the pipes or something weird like that. But you'll see now that you can't just the buffers won't automatically extract. Won't automatically insert into pipes anymore. They'll only insert into special machines. So if I put a servo on here, you can extract the fluid as normal. So that works perfectly fine. But if you're sitting next to a NuclearCraft machine or an active cooler or something like that, then it will put the fluid in perfectly normally. So only some machines now will actually extract from the buffer, and that's just basically to make things work a little bit more smoothly. So there we are. So that's the buffers. Added config option for the spread of generation of glowstone mushrooms. So yeah, you can change the generation amounts and spread in the nether of glowstone mushrooms if you really want to, or get rid of them altogether or whatever. Crushed coal has been added because there was a bit of an oversight on my part actually. So crushed coal is now in NuclearCraft in case you haven't got a mod that adds it. I spent all my time playing with. Next thing, the broken immersive engineering recipe. This is now fixed. So before, this recipe was like really broken and gave you some weird missing texture thing. So this creosote and planks recipe now works correctly. So that's a good thing because that's quite a handy way of making treated planks. Active coolers. So yeah, that was a bit of a bug that's been fixed. So active coolers sometimes used to use up, I think always actually used to use up fluid even when the reactor wasn't running. So say if your reactor was positive heat and you were running a sort of active cooled pulse reactor of some sort that turned on and off using a comparator because it was positive heat, then even when the reactor is off, and sometimes it would consume fluid, and that's now been fixed. So you don't have to worry about that anymore. Battery blocks don't display their energy correctly. That's been fixed. So if I put a uranium RTG next to here, you can see now it will actually tell me the energy stored correctly. Because I've got one probe, it doesn't really matter that much, but there we go, that actually works. And finally, at least in 2.9, that's important on this list. I've skipped out loads of bug fixes because they're a little bit boring and takes ages to get through. The final thing is that if you really want to, you can go into your mod options here, NuclearCraft, and if you go on processor configs, you can turn off the particle effects, and now the machines won't generate particles anymore. So there we are. That's very simple, but it works. So thank you very much for watching. As I said, we'll get the 2.10 one done soon, hopefully in the next day, and then we'll move on to the new tutorials that will be updated and much better. So thank you all very much for watching. Any questions in the comments? We've got a new Discord server, by the way. The Discord server, I'll put the link in the description actually, but you can also find the link on the CurseForce page and other places. So if you are interested in talking about NuclearCraft and other cool stuff, then hop on there. There's already about 20 or 30 people on there, so it's starting to build up a bit. It's quite cool. So yeah, if you want to do that, that's an option. But there we are. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.